This is Kam Kelly, and welcome once again to Devil Talk, where, as always, we are joined by Brent Pope.
Nice to be here. What do you think of the weather today?
Do you know what? It's never a bad time to start discussing the weather. It's nice.
It is nice.
Look, on the day that this is actually being recorded, I'm not going to lie, it's the perfect autumnal day.
There you go.
And I have to say, since we started doing Devil Talk, I never ever thought I'd get the word autumnal in there, but I managed it. So
it's special.
I'd like to thank you for that opportunity. And joining us in the hot seat today, it's Paul Reagan. It's not Paul Reagan. It's Gerad Adams. Gerad, in an important situation, have you ever called out the wrong name? Maybe announcing a starting team?
Yeah, I think you've picked up a few documents I've written down lately, but it was it was one of those things. It's like when you're out golfing and you're on the tee and you look and you see water and you think, don't hit it in the water, don't hit it in the water, and that's all you think of. Of course, you go and you hit the ball in the water. And there was a player I'd have released the day before, and I was going in for my team talk, and that's all I kept saying to myself was, don't say this person's name, don't say his name, don't say his name. And I called his name out first, and it was one of those things that was quite embarrassing. But
didn't know what happens there? Is that because he was a former teammate? Did the rest of the team kind of go, ooh, awkward, too soon, or do they go, ah?
No, it was the awkward silence stare at me, and I had to break it and say, like, I'm sorry. That's my bad.
Right. Okay.
We have a popular phrase. It sounds like everything went a little bit romfo at that moment, because that's sort of one of our things, but that's maybe what happened.
All right. So to give you your proper introduction then, head coach, player coach, general all-round good egg, Mr. Gerad Adams.
Yeah, no, thank you for that introduction. It's quite the thing here at Cardiff. There's always lots to do, but I think right now my job is just mostly getting the on ice back on track. Mm-hmm. We faded a little bit this year. We haven't started the way we wanted. Where we're at, we're just after a big home defeat, so we're looking to turn it around.
I think I've said this on past Devil Talks, but I actually think, bearing in mind that you started off with quite a young and new team who hadn't played together, I thought you were off to a cracking start this season.
It is one of those. I mean, it hasn't gone terrible, but it's not where we want to be. We're not in first place, and I think that's kind of where we aim to be all the time. So if we're not, in the top three hovering around, I think that's when we get a little bit concerned. And we've given away a few points, and I think that's the biggest point. In sports, you can handle when the other team's a little bit better than you, and they have the edge. But we've been in most games and played well enough to win, and we've given away a number of points, and that's what's dissatisfying right now, and that's what we're looking to turn around.
Now, what happened? Let's focus last weekend in the Bay, 6-2. What happened there?
It was a combination of things. I think Belfast came in. They're a really good hockey team. Don't get me wrong. They're in first place for a reason in our league. And I thought, the first about 25 minutes, we really competed. And our biggest thing right now is we're not capitalizing on our chances. We're not executing. And it's just a little bit of a hunger and kind of desire around the net to actually go in there and just put the puck in the net. And it's hard to score goals, and guys have to want to do it. And that's the biggest thing. And then after about the 25-minute mark, we gave up a couple soft goals, and they just kind of kept rolling. And I think they out-competed us on our rink. I think they won, the little battles for the pucks. There's a one-on-one situation. They always came out on top. And again, that's something that doesn't necessarily ever happen down here in our rink, and it happened that game, and it was a good little bit of shot to the ego. I think it's something that's been addressed and won't happen going forward. Okay,
you come off the ice after a game like that. Is it harder being part of the team to give a shed load of grief to a bunch of guys who are essentially your teammates?
I think when I first started doing it, I think I had difficult doing it, and kind of being the bad guy at that time, and you get to a point where, I don't know if it's you get with age, but you don't really care what people think of you. You're just trying to get the job done.
Okay.
And it is, it's the policy, do as I say, not as I do. And, as a player, I will make mistakes. But, as a coach, they do need to listen to apply what I'm saying.
When you make mistakes, do you get more grief from your teammates as the coach?
I think sometimes I do, because when I make mistakes, I make them big, and they're pretty noticeable. But it's no, I think it's just being a good teammate. So it's a balance between the coaching and playing. Is you just have to have the respect on both sides, and that a lot of it goes into the recruiting and bringing in the right players who can kind of tell who's talking at the time, the player or the coach.
Talking about new players, are you happy with your new signings and how they've started this season?
Scott Dobbin, I think, has been tremendous. He's exactly what we thought we were going to be. He's kind of a hardworking two-way player who's not really flashy in any particular area, but he's really coming along. I think he's making great strides of improvement. Chris Frank, I think his conditioning wasn't where it should have been at the start, but I think he's gotten a lot better. And, he's exactly what we need. And we need him to be a little bit more physical, but I think that will come, again, with the conditioning. And Jeff Pierce got off to a great start, but we need more out of Jeff. I don't think Jeff's playing anywhere near the level that he needs to be. So he's one of the players on our team that drastically needs to improve. He's got all the skill level in the world, and it's just his work rate needs to match the skill. And there's no question he could be one of the better players in the league.
You mentioned Chris Frank not being aggressive enough. How hard is it to instruct one of your players to get physical when you know that they could well be off the ice then for anywhere up to 15 or 20 minutes?
It is a fine line. I think, it's a little bit down to the player, and I think it's just a new league, and it's new reffing. I think the reffing, throws off some of the physical players sometimes, because if they do some things that they don't think is a penalty, they'll end up, like you said, and sit off for a long time. And, it's difficult for Chris. I know we were down 2-0 at Sheffield at home, and he asked one of the Sheffield, enforcers if they wanted to fight, and the guy turned him down. So it's not like he's making the effort. I think, and he's just finding the areas and the timing of it. And maybe just the officiating is holding back slightly, but he is getting better, and I think we'll see more from him.
Is it literally like asking someone out to a dance? Do you want to fight later? Not really. Okay, I'll move on to someone else. Is that rejection that you have to deal with?
Kind of is that kind of rejection, I guess. I don't know if guys really take it to heart that much, but it is. Because
surely that would make you want to fight even more. Well, you will fight with me. Thanks very much.
Well, it's
you will wear one.
Generally, it's an invitation, though. It's an invitation to meet you at a certain point in time and to take part in a certain activity. And if they don't, in fact, want to do that, you do feel a little bit let down, don't you?
You do. I mean, you can see them on the ice. It's like one massive, big speed dating thing. Do you want to fight? Not really. No, not compatible. Anyone want to fight me tonight?
Is anybody willing? Well, you find that you only ask certain people. And only certain people are willing to answer.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah. No, God, no. I don't want to change your mentality. Please don't go onto the ice thinking you're in a massive speed dating ring. Don't start. That's not the mentality we want to instill within the players.
Though, for a competition between periods, we have to have a look at that.
Oh, that's probably not even worth thinking about. Right then. This weekend, home to Dundee before a big match away at Sheffield on Sunday. Am I wrong to make the assumption that should be quite a nice little confidence booster against Dundee? I would look at that as relatively comfortable.
I wouldn't say comfortable, but it is a game. Like when you look at our schedule, you definitely think you should win. That should be 2 points, just because it's one of the Scottish teams coming down. They got long travel and whatnot, and our budget might be slightly higher than theirs. But it is one of those things where right now we're not necessarily at our best, so it's going to be a little bit difficult. I think it'll be a little bit tricky. I think it's our work rate and execution. If it can match together, we'll be just fine. And it's our power play when we do take advantage of other teams' penalties. That's what can ease the game, is by getting some power play goals. And especially against teams like that, if you catch them on the away matches, they might not be mentally ready right off the bat, and that's where you can take advantage of that. And that really eases the game to get a couple goals in the power play.
But you've already increased the work rate on the build-up to both weekend matches, and also, according to my shiny-headed colleague to the right of you, we are. It's almost a sellout, and a common theme on Devil Talk over the past few months has certainly been the atmosphere at the Big Blue Tent is almost second to none when it comes to the rest of the country and the fan support. So with the increased work rate and let's face it, a house at capacity, surely that should increase confidence.
It should. I mean, it is, like you said, Cardiff is, in my opinion, the one of, if not the best places to play for the atmosphere, just because the crowd's right on top of you. They're very vocal, very passionate, and it is. I think it's one of those things that work kind of full circle. If the team's playing well, competing, winning the battles, showing the effort, showing the pride, I think the crowd really picks up on that. And it's the same thing. I think the guys kind of pick up on the crowd when they really get into it right off the bat. So it's kind of one of those things that kind of go both ways and you feed off each other. So I think it's maybe both sides need to step it up a little bit.
I think there's a very common sort of theme that we have. We call ourselves the Red Army, our fan base here, but also they can be the sixth man for us on the ice, being that additional factor. And we're actually starting a new program, advert or feature in our program this week, where the online forum, it's called the Inferno, is going to represent the fans' sort of views. Some positive comments and maybe some areas to improve on. But that's one thing that they asked this week, is that that activity from the team in order to engage the fans to get that emotion going, that needs to really start with the product on the ice first in order to engage the crowd. And it's a two-way relationship. And sometimes the fans start that initiative and that energy first, and then the players respond. And sometimes the players that start it and the fans respond. But that electricity hopefully will be there with a big crowd this weekend.
Okay, well, if it helps, I'm bringing down both my sisters, and they're both very loud. So I think we're doing our part. And also, where more noise will be made, I'm basing this purely on history and purely on last year. Some of the most outrageous noises I've ever heard being made in my life. It's the Cardiff Devils Ladies' Night, which takes place next week.
Ridiculous opening. I love it.
I know. I'm sorry, I maybe overplayed my part there, but if I can predict a score for Ladies' Night, it would be Ladies 1, Devils 0. They didn't stand a chance last year, those boys. They were ripped limb for limb.
Unreal.
What can we expect from Ladies' Night? It's happening next Tuesday, right?
Yeah, I think it's always a great evening, and it's a good point for the players just to kind of let loose and have fun. And obviously, there's a lot of ladies for the guys, and it's funny, the ladies on that night, they quite often hunt in packs.
They really do.
They leave some of the guys quite vulnerable, but it is a good night. And then obviously we've got T Haven involved, so it's nice to give some money back to T Haven, and it's just to get everything. I think we had a tough summer with the Devils, and it's just to kind of get the off ice events and a little bit of fun back into that. And like I said, I mean, it's sold out right now, and it's going to be a fantastic evening.
It's going to be, and I imagine photos will be online, the ones that won't offend, on cardiffdevils.com pretty soon after the event itself.
Well, they do always. We have a policy. You understand that, don't you, Cam? What goes on at Ladies' Night stays at Ladies' Night.
I wish what happened on Ladies' Night last year stayed on Ladies' Night, but I still wake up screaming with the images in my head.
Oh my goodness!
The images stayed.
My goodness.
Right, listen. I don't know what deserves more luck being wished. Really, at home to Dundee, away to Sheffield, or Ladies' Night. Three massive events coming up for you and the guys, and I obviously wish you the best of luck with all of them. Thanks so much for coming in, G.
Thank you very much.
All good.